Hello and welcome to the Side One YouTube channel. Hopefully this is working. This is only about the third time I've ever live streamed. And today we're going to install an MPU6050. For those of you who have never seen one, that's it. A very small chip in the middle. Now this particular unit has a design flaw. They added this little resistor here, or it might be a capacitor even, but it's so close to this hole that I'm not going to be able to use that hole for mounting without destroying that. I've already tried one once before. So we will not only be using the one mounting hole, and I might use some hot melt glue to make sure it stays secure. So to install this, I'm going to have to drill a hole and tap it for M3 to get an M3 screw into this spot, and then wire it into place. I'm planning on mounting it in this orientation. So to do that, we're going to have to remove Fred's skull. Just put it the best way. Oops, just hit the camera with my head. Okay, so this black cable is just audio out from the Raspberry Pi board. I use it to connect to external speakers, and I also use it to connect to other devices. I have to fix that one before that goes back in. So I can record video from it when I need to. Okay, so those of you who are not familiar with the layout in Fred's head, this at the bolted in, or glued into the forehead is actually a switch mode power supply which supplies the Raspberry Pi with power. Here I have a PCA 9685 16 channel I2C driven servo driver. The servo for the yaw action of the head is located at the back here. This is a network cable which goes into a network switch. It was in a video or two ago. This cable is for the camera located in Fred's eye, and this connector goes down to the plug on the servo driver board to provide the I2C signal. This cable here carries the I2 signal out from the other side of this board down through the neck to the next I2C board. Now located, or these orange and green wires are actually 20 volt power to the switch mode power supply, and there's a little spot just here which I thought would be ideal to mount the MPU. So before I get too carried away, I'm just going to get this wire out of the way. I am going to need to drill a hole, and I'm thinking right there would be good. On the underside of the board, you can see it's dead flat apart from the pins. This has a cutaway, so a flat part and then a cutaway, so that'll be ideal. The pins are clear of the plastic and it's level with the plastic. So I've got a tool drill bit. This one has a drill bit on it, but also has the threads for M3. So I'm going to use that one to drill and tap all at the same time. Now I can come across a little bit so it overhangs. So I'll go as wherever I can. That looks pretty good. Now I've got this little M3 screw cap head, so Allen key type. Could have used a shorter one. Okay. The next trick will be connecting it to the I2C bus. For that, I made this little cable up. So this cable is set up for connecting to the PCA 9685, ground on this end, 3.3 volt on this end. Then we've got SDA, SCL. This pin is output enable and not used. I've used the last pin being ground, and then I've connected those to the appropriate pins to suit the first 4 pins on the MPU6050. So we plug that in there. Okay, nice and easy. So now that's in there, the next trick will be to plug the Raspberry Pi all back together and connect it back up, reinstall the skull, and then we can play with the software. Now those who have been following the program I've been writing for Fred will probably already know that I've got the start of the drive services installed already in that program, but I haven't yet had a chance to use them. The camera works a lot better when you install them up the right way too. So I've just turned the power back on. The Raspberry Pi down the bottom is booting up. The Raspberry Pi at the top is booting up. I can see a green LED on the MPU 6050. I didn't even know it had one there. It actually looks pretty square on, which is good. I've got an LED on the PCA9685, which means I have got that powered up. Looking in underneath the jaw, we can see the blue light on the switch mode power supply for the PCA9685. And there's another one buried right down inside the head, the skull for the Raspberry Pi. For those of you who have seen the video on the power systems, there's a, I'm not sure that's in view. Okay, so down the bottom I've got the switch mode power supply for Raspberry Pi LCD display and network switch. The bigger switch mode power supply is for the PCA9685 that is driving these two servos, the one here for the neck to go up and down. Also the pair of servos used to tilt the body or roll the body side to side, and will also be used for the shoulder servos. Alright, so I'm not sure I've actually set up a screen. No, I haven't, so I'll set one up now. Doing some live I haven't done before, so I've got some games. Display capture. Now that we have Fred's screen, this is the Raspberry Pi in Fred's head. We can start having a look and see what we do with it. And I should probably move the mic so you can hear me. So what I'm going to do is go down to the existing My Robot Lab, do this in the right screen. So you may have noticed I've got several copies of My Robot Lab installed on this. MRL on its own is the Manticore version. This is not the newest version of Nixie, but a lot newer than the old version. So going to Fred, into the configuration. Now I moved the MPU 6050s into the I/O devices. it's connected to the Raspberry Pi, which is I2C port 1. So anyone familiar with the Raspberry Pi and the Raspberry Pi service will know that the I2C is on 1. If you're using an Arduino, Nano, Uno or Mega 2560, it is on port 0, just so you know the difference. It happens when I'm just looking at some of the comments. I do have trouble reading the comments while I'm streaming at the same time, but I will look back. For those of you who are part of the robotics learning, I'm also watching it as well. So let's it would seem that the Raspberry Pi is not responding. I might be, no, I'm not using too much bandwidth. It's still responding. Okay, came back online. So that file is saved. So our next trick will be to launch it. So I did create a shell script to help with the launching. Because I passed several command lines at the same time, the shell script makes it a lot easier, so I don't have to try and remember a very long launch script. Now, please keep in mind this is a Raspberry Pi, so it is lacking power. I've also changed one of the orders of booting up the program as well. Things like the PIR, the ultrasonic sensors, the NeoPixels are all configured to start prior to the servos now. So the MPU6050 service has started, which is a good thing. It's seeing the Raspberry Pi. You can tell that with the good times message. Now, being a version of Nixie, you can also access this using a web browser from your PC. One of the reasons Grog over at My Robot Lab is really pushing for the web GUI interface, or graphical user interface, is for headless operation. The Swing graphical user interface, I think, uses less resources than what the web graphical user interface does, because the web browser within Chrome on the Raspberry Pi does use quite a lot of resource. But of course, that's not an issue if you're using the web browser on another computer altogether. Now, This is taking longer than I would like, so that tells me I have a problem. And the first place you go to when you have a problem is have a look at this terminal window, because it will tell you where things have gone wrong. And here we go. So there is an error in the program at line 212 while it was attaching. And it's because I am dyslexic when typing. So I'll shut my robot lab down and correct the program. I made the same mistake for the second one there. So servos have started. We should see something coming from the NeoPixels shortly. It's still starting up the speech services. I haven't actually plugged the speakers back into it yet. And NeoPixels are online. And program is back up and running. Okay, so now I need to actually look up a few commands, because it never occurred to me that I'd get this far in this quickly. MPU. Helps if I type on the right screen. MPU6050A. Refresh. And now I should be able to and we are getting readings off the MPU. So the next trick will be to actually have a look and see what else we can do with this, tie it in with the head movement. So we're getting all three. The head is yawed right round at the moment. As you can see, I'll just turn it back when I find the yaw. It's continuing to try and turn its head to the side. But if you compare those readings there with these readings, they are moving around. I'll move the head again. I think what I need to do is refresh before I actually use that. Oops, put my hash in the wrong spot. So something's gone wrong with that. There you go, it gives us the temperature as well. So I've had some readings out of it, which is good. I'll have to do some more experimentation with it. But we have had some success. It not looking completely stable, so we'll have to go through the logs and find out where it failed. The head is moving around on its own. So as the eyes move, the head's moving with it. Alright, so that'll do for this one. I've obviously got quite a bit of debugging to do. For those who haven't seen the NeoPixies in action with the program, I'm running them in debug mode. In debug mode, each NeoPixie is configurable. So I've got each of the NeoPixies configured to show different things. The blue ones popping up now are actually a result of the ultrasonic sensor picking things up. And I think I've actually got them configured back to front. So the left one shows on the right side, etc., and the right one shows on the left. The one in the middle, I've got a total of 23 neopixels in here, 16 on the outer ring. There's an inner ring of 6 plus one in the dead center. The dead center one is actually being used for battery monitoring, but I haven't installed the voltage divider for that yet. That will be coming up on a later video as I go through the electronics, mathematics involved in determining the resistors and how the resistor network bridge works. So that'll do for this stream in this video. and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to click on like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Down in the description, when I eventually write it all up properly, there will also be a link to the Discord channel. There's also going to be a link to the Patreon page. So I shall see you later.